Just recently, Alisha Lehmann moved to Juventus and was asked the question, "What is the greatest footballer in the history of Juventus Football Club?" To which she replied, "Without a doubt, for me, it's Roberto Baggio." Although Baggio played at Inter, Milan, and Juventus, Roberto was on Maradona's level, but he only played the way he liked. A military helicopter circled over Florence, and from the ground the howling of alarm sirens and columns of thick black smoke rose towards it. Such was the day Fiorentina announced the sale of Roberto Baggio. A year later, he returned to the city with Juventus, earned a penalty under whistles and swearing, then refused to take it. Coach Gigi Manfredi took Roby off the pitch. As he left, Baggio picked up a Florentine rose thrown from the stands and in one gesture turned hatred into admiration. Baggio was a powerful catalyst for emotion. If he was loved, it was to the point of deification. If hated, then so much so that against this background Catalan pig heads looked like a bad joke at a school matinee. But when time passed and all the emotions subsided, leaving a real feeling, it turned out that Italy had never loved anyone as much as Baggio. Baggio is one of the individually strongest players in history. Only Maradona has played at his level. There are many stories about how he achieved such admiration. You can tell how he spent hours signing autographs and never once refused anyone. Or how in the winter of '98 he refused to move to the leading Inter because he felt it was unfair to the Tifosi of Bologna. But all this was already a development, cases in which respect and love grew. And he achieved them only by playing. Baggio was not as influential a footballer as Platini or Xavi, did not shape the style of the team, and did not tie the quality of its game. He didn't even create all the time. Roberto interpreted the role of number 10 in such a specific way that he was never called a playmaker, and Platini coined the term number 9.5 for him, so he tried to capture an attacking aggression rare for an artist. Roby combined an artistic mindset with the efficiency of a number 9, and this almost impossible combination formed the basis of a unique playing style. He was both a poet and a gun. "If I had the opportunity to do something magical, I did it," Baggio explained. But efficiency remained the priority. The magic was an extension of the result. His desire to combine beauty and efficiency manifested itself in Baggio's most underrated ability, the absence of unnecessary touches. You can see how it worked from his goal against Lokomotiv in the UEFA Cup 1993-94. Baggio got away from the defender and could have rolled it out to Ravanelli or shot into the near or far. But he took his chances and maximized his chances. He skipped between two defenders and got into a position where he couldn't miss. Any move he made was justified, even if he took out the goalkeeper 3 times in a row, as in the match against Licata. Usually players with such a rare talent are revealed in game management, but Roby did not participate in the construction and often fell out for long stretches of the match. But if he flared up, it was impossible to stop him. Roberto Baggio was one of the few players in history who, without metaphors and exaggerations, won matches single-handedly. 96 of Baggio's 205 goals in Serie A, either wins or draws. He would simply pick up the ball and score, beating everyone in his path. This almighty self-confidence conquered even Madonna. She saw the goal of Czechoslovakia at the World Cup in 1990 and fell in love with Roby without even knowing his name. Baggio himself explained it this way: "I understand soccer as the creation of something difficult and unforgettable. Easy goals have never brought me pleasure." These passes looked a bit mystical, because Baggio never fainted and didn't even change his running path at all times, which made it seem as if he was moving in a parallel dimension. His dribbling was based on timely accelerations, phenomenal timing and sense of space, and perfect technique. It was as if his parents had glued the ball to his right foot when he was learning to walk. Baggio took his rounding to the utmost purity and precision. You'd have to watch more than one match to find how the ball was taken away from him. Technically, he was perfection, with the ball did what he wanted, recalled ex-forward Inter's Mohamed Kallon. "In training, I just stood and watched him, trying to steal a few secrets." But what Baggio was doing was impossible to copy. At 22, Baggio rivaled Maradona. At 26, he won the UEFA Cup and won the Ballon d'Or. At 27, he dragged Italy to the World Cup finals, scoring the winning goals in all playoff games. He was hailed as one of the best in history before he reached mid-career, but at 37 Baggio finished at Brescia with almost no titles. He was consistently rejected by all of Italy's top clubs, Inter, AC Milan, and Juventus. He was not in the starting lineup for long periods of time. Players of this caliber have never been in a position like this. He gave 123 assists in Serie A but was not a team player. It is commonly believed that the tragedy of Baggio is in the difficult relationship with the coaches, who for some reason disliked him. One of the most popular opinions, they did not understand what to do with a talent of such magnitude. This version is supported by Roby himself. In modern soccer, coaches put themselves above the players and the team, and I stole the show, in which they wanted to be the main characters. They were jealous, because even the rivals loved me. Baggio made little secret of the fact that he thought coaches were pointless. Indeed, he often quarreled with them and sometimes feuded with them for long periods of time. But this dislike was not mutual. Most coaches considered him the best in the world, and quarrels were usually provoked by Roby himself. At Fiorentina, he argued with the players that he would not sweat in training and was surprised when at the weekend remained in the reserves. At Juventus, Manfredi skipped training to go hunting. Trapattoni demanded special treatment and took offense if he was not singled out from the rest. At Bologna, he complained to the president that the coach did not put him in the starting lineup. "We did not run uphill, and during the two sides cautiously went into the fight," recalled forward Brescia Dario Ubner. But usually Roberto trained separately. Everyone was plowing, and he was practicing on the sidelines. Sometimes we teased him, "Roby, don't tire yourself out too much, okay?" But everyone understood that Baggio in your team is a miracle. Of all the coaches Baggio has worked with, he had real non-playing problems only with Marcello Lippi. According to Roby, the coach suggested he snitched on Inter players and retaliated when he was refused. Lippi denied everything. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The story still doesn't explain why Lippi turned down Baggio at Juventus. Lippi built the game from the atmosphere and valued stars like Del Piero, who put the team ahead of themselves. Similar words Marcello ended his first speech at Juve with. Baggio did not fit the coach's main criterion. Roberto gave out almost 200 goal assists, often helped his teammates, but he was withdrawn, partly because of his lifestyle, daily 2-hour prayers, and individual training, and never put the team ahead of himself. When Bologna did not put him in the starting lineup for the match against Juve, Roby snapped and berated not only the coach, but also his teammates. Because of such things, Juve goalkeeper Stefano Toccani called him a locker room destroyer. One of the most famous stories about Roby is the quarrel with Sacai at the World Cup, '94. The coach substituted him midway through the first half against Norway to bring on a substitute goalkeeper. Pagliuca was sent off. The move worked, Sacai saved the game, but Roby still took offense. After the match, he charged the coach that he did not appreciate him and would never replace Maradona. At the same World Cup, Baggio complained to coaches that he was not being given assists. Sacai had defenders given to Roby in training to get his confidence back. Baggio didn't want to change when soccer changed. In the late 80s, Arrigo Sacai took over the world with total pressing and a 4-4-2 formation without the classic 10 men. As it happens in such cases, imitation was replaced by rethinking. Followers took the best findings from the concept and on this basis developed modern soccer, with space management, team pressing, and off-the-scale athleticism. Off-system number 10, playing on clean balls, did not fit into the new soccer. They did not participate in the team movement, fought for balls at will, and were not responsible for any areas on the field. Their tasks were limited to a simple create or score, and no one cared about the paths. They had no responsibilities. This used to be justified by the prevalence of personal tutelage. After dealing with a support player one-on-one, the dozens would create a numerical advantage and go straight to the last defender. But Sacai destroyed personalization as well. Zone pressing appeared. Players had additional tasks at the stage without the ball. Artists lost their freedom. Baggio became the most famous victim of this systematization. In the 1994-95 season, the best player in the world was injured, and when he returned, he found 20-year-old Del Piero in the starting lineup and a 4-3-3 scheme. Baggio lit up in the last rounds, but the flank player has never been, and in this capacity, inferior to Alex. Juve sold Roby to AC Milan at a wholesale price. "Football has become too complicated," Baggio said. "I don't enjoy myself anymore, but I hope to entertain the fans." His 2 years at Milan were the most faded of his career. In his first season, fans called him the best in the team, but Roby agonized with injuries and struggled to find a place in the base with Vea and Savicevic. Capello, Tabarez, and Sacchai were coaching the Rossoneri at the time, and none of them considered Baggio a starter, although all three of them at different times called him one of the greatest. Commenting on Baggio's discontent, Tabarez bluntly said, "There is no place for poets in modern soccer." Roberto refuted this every time he was on the pitch. He scored, beat, and assisted, but everything had its price. In the new system, one of the players had to work for two to cover the 10. Even Inter president Massimo Moratti, a big fan of Roby, recognized this. Only Lasescu knows how to integrate Baggio. He's worth 2 places on the pitch, and that's a problem. Coaches of top clubs didn't want to depend on one player and preferred continuous team pressure to the creative flashes of an artist. At the same time, Del Piero and Totti evolved into the new age 10, went beyond the create and score functionality, and worked for the team. Baggio didn't even try. In 1997, he could have moved to Parma and played in the Champions League, but he refused after negotiations with Ancelotti. When Carlo told him that he sees him as a center forward, Roby replied, "Only a fantasist," and left for Bologna. He moved to Brescia for the same reason. "Here I can play the way I like." Could Baggio have changed if he wanted to? The extinction of the classic autonomous 10 is often attributed to the transition to zone pressing. Personal tutelage left technical players one-on-one with their opponents, and the advantage in pure soccer class allowed artists to dominate the field. With the zone system, the main condition for guaranteed brilliance disappeared. To Baggio, this explanation is inapplicable. He brought dribbling and understanding of the game to such a level that he easily survived in any system of pressing. Roberto chose a position so that to secure the ball at the reception stage and then deal with the opponent, and a simple increase in the number of defenders against him did not help. Roby, and in the early 90s, kept denser than the other 10, but it did not stop him. In terms of intelligence and playing qualities, he was suitable for any role in the changed soccer. Yet Baggio was still unlikely to fit into the new era. One of the great and somewhat forgotten qualities of his game is that Roby made the most of everything. Baggio shone brightest, it's true, but he also disappeared masterfully, about an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 Ozil. He was a flash player. He could play half a match stealthily with a touch and then explode and create a masterpiece, like with Czechoslovakia. Baggio played brilliantly in the truest sense of the word, but was never a complete player. That's why legendary journalist Johnny Brera put him below Platini. Michel was simultaneously director, assistant, and striker. The freedom of the 10 covered the unevenness of the game and allowed Baggio to disappear without affecting the result. The team did not depend on him. In any other role, Roby had responsibilities, and if he accepted them, he would become part of the system. And when something doesn't work in the system, problems start. The team would have sagged in one of the components. The whole world moved on to cell phones, computers, and Guardiola, while Baggio stayed in the days of Rivera and Savori, pure class and the thrill of the game. He took the opposition of poetry and passion to athleticism and professionalism to a personal protest, and for the sake of that struggle, he burned the second half of his career. Roby wanted to play the way he liked to play, and he didn't want to play the way he needed to. Finishing his career, Roberto admitted that modern soccer bored him. Baggio became a legend, gained a romantic halo, and in this timeless state surpassed both the heirs and his real achievements. He outperformed his rivals in almost everything but the main thing. They managed to become wingers, strikers, and midfielders. And Baggio only knew how to be Baggio. great and loved by all.